This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Greater Toronto Sewer and Water Main Contractors Association. Clean water, our goal, our future.
Hello and welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm Journal of Commerce editor Warren Fry, and today we're featuring an interview with Jedson Company CEO Michael Bordes. Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce National Managing Editor Viince Versace talked to Bordes about modular construction and prefab building trends in 2021. Bordes says architects and engineers are coming to realize the advantages of modular construction, including substantial time savings compared to traditional methods. He also noted in our interview that architects are adding to the base model of a modular structure and adding their own flourishes and upgrades, which adds to the commercial appeal of the buildings. New designs are also allowing for trade work that normally would hang from walls and ceilings. That's going into floors, which streamlines the building process. And Bordes also predicts low-rise and mid-rise multiple family dwellings will start trending towards modular construction in the future. Thanks for listening. Here's our interview with Michael Bordes.
This feature interview is brought to you by the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association, Ontario's champion for sustainable and safe water and sewer
Hello everyone, this is Viince Versace, National Managing Editor of the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce, joining you today for episode 103 of the Construction Record. And for our dear listeners and readers who've been following us, you know we're doing some forward-looking podcasts and stories right now at the beginning of 2021. And I have with me today Michael Bordes of Jedson Company. And I wanted to talk to Michael as it concerned primarily what trends he sees around modular construction and prefab building in 2021. So, Michael, thank you for joining the Construction Record today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So really, based on my intro, what do you see as kind of maybe the trends in modular and prefab building in 2021? And, you know, what are you seeing on the ground and maybe through what you're seeing with your company?
Great. So as far as new construction goes and modular homes or prefab homes, what we're seeing on a regular basis now compared to the past is architects and engineers are finally realizing that modular building is more affordable, better construction, better insulated, and much easier to build in a timely fashion. So when you were building a stick frame home years ago, it might take a month to build a home, 5,000 square foot home, or maybe 6 weeks to frame it. On these modular projects today, you're putting a foundation in, footings, foundations, and some grade work, and then in a month after that, the house is done. So the savings in time is, I would say, probably better than 60% in savings in time alone, which equates to a lot of dollars at the very end of the day. So most of the homes that we see going up today are kind of like mild custom modulars. The modular homes have a base footing, and what's happening is some of these architects now are taking some of these modular homes, the base models or the base footprint of these buildings, and then what they do is they add a sunroom, they add a gazebo, they add a front porch. So when you're driving down the street, it doesn't necessarily look like a two-level box anymore. It looks like it's custom. There are beautiful overhangs and eaves, porches and porticos, and you would never think that these were modular homes. You're also ending up with 9-foot ceilings because of the modular build and having to do trade work and connections in between floors after it's put together. So the construction part is amazing. The insulation part is amazing. Additional height in the ceiling is amazing. Plus, you can get certain upgrades on these projects that are very affordable, that give you the appearance and the curbside appeal that you need to sell a home. So,
now, do you see commercial construction at some point maybe picking up a bit more on the prefab modular construction, or do you see it more in residential right now?
We're only seeing it in residential. We do a lot of housing unit buildings, which between 100 and 120 units, and nothing on those projects is modular. At some point in the future, they have different types of construction builds going on we're seeing a new trend coming up with Comcast structures built into the superstructures. So these new designs are allowing trade work to go into the slabs now, because these Comcast slabs are between 10 and 12 inches, even though it's metal decking. But they're now, with the new design, all of the trade work that you would normally see through walls or in ceilings or, things that are hanging down, because they're kind of eliminating core drilling, there's no more core drilling and no more chipping concrete, because it's creating faults in the structures and possibilities for damage in the future. So now most of the trade work are going in the floors of these new Comcast type superstructures that we're doing. And you're getting a much cleaner look. The trade work numbers are coming in better because it's pretty simply laid out. You do everything in the floor, the slab gets poured over it. The only drawback to it is if there's ever a problem in the future, you basically have to cut open the ceiling or part of the channeling from below to get to where that could be a problem or a potential problem at any point. But mostly everything is in pipe. Even the trade work goes into a PVC type pipe. So I think you're going to see a lot more new trends coming out for superstructure type buildings and multiple family. They can be low-rise, mid-rise type buildings. You're going to start to see new innovative ways coming to create a more streamlined way to do construction with less cost and maybe more concrete and less steel, or vice versa. Every engineering firm has a different way to build, but we're seeing now going forward that their concrete numbers, they're doing a lot more concrete now with steel on the Comcast type structures opposed to all concrete and rebar.
Right. So how about for you then, when as a leader, you know what I mean, you're managing your projects and you probably have folks with you that you task with that. When I talk to construction stakeholders, both in the US and Canada here, when we talk about modular and prefab, one of the items that comes up is it helps with labor force management because it seems to be a bit more of an efficient way to build, like your end of the project. And so it frees you up to dedicate labor to other projects. Do you see that in your experience as well?
Yeah, well, on the superstructure type work that we're doing now, that's not modular or prefab, you're still dealing with budgeting, you're still dealing with daily labor, and I think the new trends going forward are going to be for bigger general contractors to subcontract out their work to smaller companies that will eventually balance and level out what your payroll costs are, and probably less expensive. When you have a job that's going on and you might lose a day or two with rain or inclement weather or things of that nature, you always try to find something for your people to do to keep them working so they don't lose any time. And there's a loss with that mentality. And as far as, having committed employees working, it's beautiful to have a team all the time, but the cost sometimes outweighs the benefits of building on your own and not building in a modular way. When we have projects that are modular type buildings or any kind of prefab, it's pretty cut and dry. The dollars are cut and dry. There's very little room and there's a very little amount of percentages of loss on those types of projects because you're not dealing with a lot of labor force anymore. You need a couple of laborers to clean the property, and most subcontractors that do either the footing or foundation or site work handle all that on their own. And when the job goes up, you need a small container for some materials for safety and transporting and things of that nature. But once the crane comes and puts those units in place, the house is already up at that point, if that makes any sense. But it's built, it's 80 to 85% completed on the inside, even though the trade work is mostly done. The only thing that you're missing are mainly all the final connections and the final finishes. But as far as kitchen comes, kitchen's already installed in the job. It's done, built, it's transported with the kitchen in it already. All the plumbing is done, all the electrical is done. So the HVAC is one of the things that isn't done on these projects because it's not something it's hard to transport with every trade in place. But on the plumbing, electrical, or any kind of low voltage wiring that was predetermined earlier is already included in these jobs, and it's a huge savings. You're going from building a house in a year to building a house in 4 months, start to finish.
Right, and it is there is those efficiencies with that. I'm curious to see in the end when we talk about superstructures and stuff that kind of goes beyond 4 stories, what the North American market will deliver around modular and prefab. So thank you for that insight. I'd be remiss not to ask you, I mean, with anybody that we talk about, COVID-19's impacted all of us worldwide, and it's impacted this industry. And you're designated as you're an essential contractor. Your firm, you worked during the pandemic since March when things kind of blew up. And now here we are heading into 2021. Yes, there's a vaccine, but still there's a reality. We have restrictions and protocols in place for job work. Maybe give the listeners a bit of a taste of like how you tackled the first wave of this challenge and building during it, and what you're going to do heading into this year.
Well, the first week that the city decided to close everything down, I think they needed to just put the pause button on so they can get an idea of what's happening and what the dangers would be moving forward with COVID in place. So the first week or two, we shut the office down and we kind of waited a little bit to see what was going to happen. And for the first week, it was kind of like, okay, we're in limbo. We don't know what's happening. And we did shut the office because the COVID was really becoming very progressive and aggressive to the average person. So after a couple of weeks, we did have essential projects that were still ongoing. All the projects that we have that are in housing, because housing is essential, they keep those projects open. We were also building a pharmacy and a medical office at the time, which were also essential projects. So during that time, we worked, we didn't stop working except for 2 weeks until the city decided how to figure everything out. So once we decided to go back to work, we brought back a limited amount of people in the office. We started with 5 out of 10. We're up to 8. We're back up to 8 now in the office. 2 people we did not take back just because of the shift in the type of work that we're doing now. We concentrated mostly for the last 10 years. We did mostly fitness, commissaries and restaurants, which, those 2 trades, those 2 businesses are the worst hit in the country. So we had to redirect our energies to strictly go into housing type projects and commissary type projects. Commissaries are essential. A lot of the insurance companies now are paying for food to be delivered to people with illnesses that affect or that could jeopardize them with COVID or diabetes or things of that nature. So what's happening is a lot of new commissaries are coming on the market now because the insurance companies are paying for healthy food to be delivered to people who don't eat healthy with these problems. So those projects are now starting to pop up on our board, which I think is going to be a very positive thing for the future, that those projects will be in play, but they're not for every contractor. We've been building commissaries for 15 years, 20 years, so it's part of what we do on a daily basis. And we're going to be doing mainly at this point, I think that we've put all our focus on commissaries and affordable or housing that is provided for the middle class or city type employee, blue collar type employee that the city's funding or the state is funding or the government is funding. As far as the actual COVID problems, we've had to reorganize our jobs, our field. We've had to add washing stations on every project, separate toilets on projects, wash stations for sanitizing stations, hourly reports that have to go. The DOB is coming to every job on a regular basis, 2-3 times a day. We have to have log books. An enormous amount of administration work in the field now that field supers and project managers are starting to have to deal with. So having everything in place is a big help, because if a DOB comes on job, if a DOB inspector comes on the site, and he sees clean toilets with a log on the back door, he sees hand wash stations and various locations, he sees sanitizing stations that we have wipes, we have Clorox wipes, we have bleach, spray bleach, and we have all kinds of different hand sanitizers and things of that nature readily available to multiple people on a project. So that's what really helped us stay in the game as far as keeping things safe. And
sounds good. Any last kind of thoughts for the 2021 trend in construction as you see it going forward, or any words of wisdom or advice for your fellow colleagues in construction?
Yeah, I think that listening to the rules and guidelines is critical and should be taken seriously from everybody, anybody, and any trade in this business. And I still see people being undercautious when it comes to wearing a mask, or when they touch things, touching their face. The rule of thumb, I'm sure you heard it, is don't touch anything above your shoulders, and wear a mask every day. So I wear, how a mask has a tendency to fall down on, and you're always lifting it up. So that kind of defeats the purpose right there of your hands touching things, and now you're touching your face right away. So me personally, I wear 2 masks when I go out. I wear one above my mouth that goes to the bottom of my nose, and I wear my second one on my nose that goes almost to the bottom of my chin. So it's my own safety net and my own security of me trying my best to not get sick. So, but hopefully the mask is the part of this equation that is going to help people stay healthy.
Perfect.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, look, thank you so much for making the time to talk to the Construction Record and our listeners. There's some really good nuggets in there for people to keep in mind as they plan for 2021. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. We appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
No problem. Take care. Order as they come on site to do whatever they need to do as far as the COVID, rules and protocols. In your experience so far, how has that been rolling out on some of your projects?
The subcontractors are a little bit more difficult to deal with because they're not always of the same mindset as the general contractor. The liability falls on the general contractor. So when we're dealing with subcontractors that maybe don't have the same protocols as we have to set up those meetings on a daily basis on projects. So if a job is working today, there's a meeting in the morning about COVID, there's a safety meeting outlining equipment, tools, etc. And we have to be similar to policemen and watching everybody work, watching people that stand together, separating them. We have one particular person, a labor type person on every project that does the COVID monitoring on a daily basis. So that person checks the bathrooms. After somebody uses the bathroom, that person sanitizes the bathroom. Then when that person leaves the bathroom, they have to wash themselves or go to the hand sanitizing station to clean their hands, etc. So it's a babysitting job, unfortunately, but it's the way of the future that we have to get used to and start dealing with this like it's part of the normal way to be until COVID doesn't exist anymore, or it's manageable by whatever ways it's going to be manageable. I don't know.
Sounds good. Any last kind of thoughts for the 2021 trend in construction as you see it going forward, or any words of wisdom or advice for your fellow colleagues in construction?
Yeah, I think that listening to the rules and guidelines is critical and should be taken seriously from everybody, anybody, and any trade in this business. And I still see people being undercautious when it comes to wearing a mask or when they touch things, touching their face. The rule of thumb, I'm sure you heard it, is don't touch anything above your shoulders, and wear a mask every day. So I wear you know how a mask has a tendency to fall down on, you know, and you're always lifting it up. So that kind of defeats the purpose right there of your hands touching things, and now you're touching your face right away. So me personally, I wear 2 masks when I go out. I wear one above my mouth that goes to the bottom of my nose, and I wear my second one on my nose that goes almost to the bottom of my chin. So listen, it's my own safety net and my own security of me trying my best to not get sick. So, but hopefully the mask is the part of this equation that is going to help people stay healthy.
Perfect.
That's it.
Well, that's great. Well, look, thank you so much for making the time to talk to the Construction Record and our listeners. There's some really good nuggets in there for people to keep in mind as they plan for 2021. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. We appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
No problem. Take care.